Oh my God, I love this. It feels so special. Hey everybody. Hi, good afternoon. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Distinguished Visiting Writers Series at CSU East Bay. Shout out to the English department, class, and poets everywhere. And you all for making it here. CSU East Bay English Department has been running this series for a very long time. We like to host writers from everywhere, but especially from the Bay Area, so that the writers here can join the conversation that's been going on for decades. I think as poets, a lot of us think that there was like Shakespeare and then it's us. It's not true. And the point of these events is to show you what it would be like to actually be a real writer in the world. So we're excited that you're writing. We're excited that you're here. And we're excited to hear some poems from you and also from our guest today, Darius Simpson. Cool. What I was thinking, and I talked to some of you about, was opening the event with an open mic. Most of you are in my workshops and have been. Don't look so excited. But we're drafting. We're understanding what it means, right? To clarify, to say some shit, to be meaningful and intentional. And it'd be cool to kind of offer that little part of us, so that way Darius can walk into a community instead of walking up here solo. So if y'all are down, we'll do a quick open mic. We have a few writers signed up. If you feel moved after the last poet, give me the eye and I will bring you up, okay? Sound good? Yeah, okay, cool. Also, if you've never been to a poetry reading, they are not chill. So don't be chill, because I'll kick you out, okay? I'm just kidding, won't kick you out. Energy only, though, energy only. I'm going to start the open mic with a second draft, that I want to thank Thomas for giving me the feedback that I needed to, thank you, that I needed to kind of figure out what the hell I was doing. Have you guys seen that documentary about the Homo naledi, species that they found in these caves? Probably, I think it was in Africa somewhere. Okay, you did. All right, cool. Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, South Africa. But it's a species that was 35,000 years, 135,000 years before Homo sapiens. And what they discovered was that they were doing basically burial rituals. So I was just excited about that. And then I wrote this poem. It's called Homo naledi. And there is an epigraph. No tools have yet been found in the 2 cave chambers. What kinds of tools did Homo naledi make and use? And that's from the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. Homo naledi placed a stone in their dead's hand to carve the next world, the sacred parts. I've acquired no daughters or money, no new ideas. And someone stole my Hyundai this past February in Oakland. I want to bear something beautiful, but I'm juggling 7 incomplete futures. A down payment for a house, marriage to a man, knowing better, but doing it anyways. My romantic admiration for women, DEI committees, who my mother might have lived to become had I stayed inside. I reach for futurity and end up with my grip on a centuries-old wound. What lives in the back of my heart, fine, sharp stone, my delicate, decolonial tool. Do you ever wonder if free and lost are the same disconnection? What can I hold in this life to stay sacred, to matter, even if I spend it fighting dogma that promises I don't? I want them to find me and know I was not too proud to lie down, that I still loved my struggle and managed to still get my nails done, having felt cute and died before deleting. I want my hopelessness in men and white people, my powerlessness in their structures, my amusement with power, riddled throughout my tireless clutching hands. I want the colonizers to grow sick from studying me, from poking at my soul. The end. So thank you for helping me figure out, and third draft coming. I want to invite up our next poet who's going to share the draft with us. Give it up for Thomas.
Can you put that up here? Just thank you.
Let's see, gotta find it.
The scroll. The poet's scroll.
Here we go. So this one is called Starbucks Lover. To the guy who tried to lure me into his car at midnight in front of the Starbucks in West Hills. Next time, change your name. If I'm getting kidnapped, it's sure as shit not by a white dude named Spencer. If you want to lure someone into your car, make sure it doesn't smell like a middle school boy's locker room. If you want to lure someone into your car, get a better car. I won't be oohing and ahhing at your beat to shit soccer mom minivan. While we're at it, don't kiss like a dead skunk and brush your teeth. If I wanted to taste skunk spray, I would have killed something on my way over since you refused to meet me halfway, Spencer. If I have to defensive drive, then this asshole is like the Starbucks, closed. FYI, if you want to lure someone into your car, don't spend the whole date talking about how disinterested you are in dating because of your summer camp job that keeps you away from Wi-Fi several months of the year. You really know how to make a guy feel special. Maybe if you spent more time paying attention to me instead of playing with your hair, it wouldn't feel like a McChicken. Sticky, sticky. And lastly, Spencer, if you want to lure someone into your car, don't end the date with, "You're good enough, want to go back to my place?" But thanks for the $7 cup of coffee.
Hey. No, you got claps for that. Beautiful, thank you. Okay, cute, I see what y'all are up to. I want to go ahead and walk up next poet, Kevin. Give it up for Kevin, doing the long walk from the back. You can put it right here. You cool with clipping this on your like that? Yay, give it up for Kevin!
So I have to shake off my nerves a little bit. I don't often.
Take your time.
Whenever I meet someone new, I always say something to them that conveys the most succinct, easiest description. I am an alien. Note, I don't actually believe that I am an extraterrestrial in any manner. I too am uterine born, crafted from this clay and rock and blood that hangs third from our parent star. I am an alien. Because I am an anomaly to some. I speak too fast. I walk too fast. My mind is a chaotic maelstrom, as if it were a TV with 8 channels playing all at once, scrambled and overlapping, and yet somehow I can still manage it all. I am an alien. Because I can remember the smallest detail from 13 years ago vividly in my mind, and on a whim, adapt a new hobby and nearly master it all within a week. To be able to read a room in a millisecond. To mesh words together and create worlds upon worlds. But I can't remember where I put my wallet last night, or to put my laundry in the dryer, to brush my hair before I leave home. To eat a meal after hours of sitting quietly absorbed within myself, or worse, in my lowest moments, forget to live. I am an alien. Though I don't have that, oh look, a butterfly. Oh look, a squirrel. randomly given attention, as stated, I could focus ad nauseum on some random topic that is, as long as it makes the dopamine. Hold on, you hear that? All right, maybe I do have that a little bit. I am an alien. Because I have a gift some are envious of, but let me tell you, I would never wish this on one of my worst enemies, even though I don't really have any. Say for maybe 2-3 people. The point still stands. Being an alien, it's tough. We have to remain tough, especially when some people don't attempt empathy, and I know full well they're capable. And they know an alien in their life, or maybe they are one. I am an alien. Because for some inhumane reason, people treat their friendships with me as a commodity instead of a bond. Because somehow they don't understand. When I attempt to make myself perfectly clear, they say I'm too confusing, too out there. It's practically my whole personality, but I do that in an attempt to be perfectly clear, to be understood, to be known, to know myself, to not know heartbreak for the Xth time, to not be seen as strange or a stranger. I'm not an alien. In truth, there are many like me. There's probably at least a handful in this room right now. These problems have plagued me my whole life. And each time in an attempt to alleviate these issues or better understand myself, I claim to be an alien. And I'm not. I'm tired of people not understanding that. I want the same thing anyone does. Just give me a fucking break because we can't give one to ourselves. That's a first draft.
Give it up for Kevin. Thank you. Okay, see you. I'm going to bring up one other poet. Give it up for Sigrid.
I with this? You turn. Your call.
Yes, thank you.
So this was my bad draft, or my bad title draft, which was My Friend Was My Gay Awakening. We went everywhere together. Kindergarten, hand in hand. I cried when Mrs. Powell gave us different buddies. You locked yours in the bathroom and refused to apologize unless we got reassigned. It didn't work, but it made me love you even more. T-ball, me on first, you on the bench. Hot, sticky Saturdays that made my skin suck galled, but my spirit sore. Coach thought girls on his team weren't worth the trouble. That didn't stop us, even though you only signed up because of me, and neither one of us wanted to be a brownie. Brownies, because we didn't get a choice. Good girls like to bake, sew, play house. Nobody gives out badges for faking it. So we made our own. Special, secret. Exchanged, not earned. Yours, loyal, outrageous, open-hearted. Mine were smart, sensitive, determined. Your house, my house, school in between, inseparable. Until the day before our first day in high school. I'm nervous about all the changes. You laugh it off, unafraid as always. Put an arm around my shoulders when the panic sets in. When you kiss me, the world goes silent, except for breath upon breath, heart upon heart. I don't realize I'm kissing you back until the tsunami rushes in and drowns me. We went everywhere together until we didn't, until I threw you away because I was terrified of what it would mean to love you different. Not different, you said. Us, the way it's always been. But my fear screamed, called you names, raged against the bars until you left. And I let you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you need this back.
Thank you. Cool. Is anybody feeling moved? Jennifer, come on up. Can I mic you?
Sure. Okay.
Get up there.
Okay. All right. This one's called a Metropolis Vessel. Images of violence and sparkly carnage are a kind of iridescent memory I cannot unsee, not even dare to rip apart from the fibrous tendons of my cognizance, like a personal sirloin but without the rosemary, and too much nerves to be picked out. Only a few get pried from my teeth, with the rest in need of an extraction straight from the psychoanalyst. As a little girl, growing down in the ghettos of Harlem, somehow getting taller still, I used to go on treasure hunts for corpses. Most of them were rats. Seldom did I ever discover the odd raccoon or house cat that had crawled out into the streets to protect itself from whatever force exhaled it outside. We have too much in common, and I realized this as an adult who had just turned 5. One spring morning, when I was still winter's child, praying for autumn, the smoke from which no exact source could be detected had always found my gaze. There I saw smoke in such a way as the loved child sees in color, and the neglected one her shades of black all the same. The first time she saw a dead body was its skeleton, and it was ripe, with some pieces of flesh still attached, yet having turned a rancid ick of purple and green, 2 colors that she was immune to. For all the dead animals the little girl played with, the collarbones of an ex-mafia member were her favorite. Scattered near the basements in the hood where hordes of derelict cars somehow manage to drive only at midnight, she dreams for one of them to swing by, pick her up real fast, and drop her off along the coast of a different era. Yet sometimes, left for weeks, without anything to eat but father's bruises, and mother's ashes, the deserted prefer to walk. Move here, they say, where concrete is king and glass rules only in the form of decorative pipes and desperately pinched between the fingers of the fellow addict. Here, rats are hungry enough to eat through the rubber and not stop at the wire, but never do they escape in one piece. That's only for the big rats who make the traps. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, new work. And would you like to come up? All right, give it up for Tiffany. See what happens? See what happens? Squeeze through this way, there we go. For those of you who just came in, all good. If you want to grab some chairs, put them over here, sit up here, sit on the floor, do whatever. Can I mic you?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Bam.
Yep. So this one is called Closer, Baby, Closer. We collided into each other as fast as we parted ways. We felt the rush of intimacy, the throes of passion, fleeting, temporary, ephemeral, magnetic desire. The closer I got, the more I wanted. Closer, baby, closer. Until I felt nothing at all. What was once warmth turned into apathy. And now I no longer crave being in your proximity. Farther, baby, farther.
Here we go. Last call. Ramiro, give it up for Ramiro. Oh my God. Remember I was telling those of you who are in my spoken word workshop how I had that big ass workshop and then we would never leave and we'd move to the lawn and just cipher outside. This is how it started, so you know. Can I mic you?
Yeah.
Mic you. Is it right here?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that works. Okay. I didn't have a time to write a title for this, so yeah, this is how it goes. Who would have thought we ended the night like this, inches away from each other? In the exchange of heat, growth enters, embraces the flame to the candle wax melting. Gasps for air, stoking the flame alive, hisses our cheeks, our smiles. and the deep orange welcomed in the warmth everlasting and the flickers of a glimpse to the white wax, shaped together two bodies, intertwined in the smoke, then air to life. Firewood fire crackles the eye, blood of cinders flies to meet infant instincts. Hands passing bare flames with intentional yellow, the face red, a body orange, on top ignites smile for words to kiss, the vulnerable heart smitten. In the moment of arms, wood in the fire of two. Orpheus' side of Eurydice pass, flames to keep alive such a voice slumber, intone for shivers to crackle, for orange illuminating higher. Enter the fireplace, a rod, flames rise to the cheeks, to the voice with words so warm, the candle wax fades white, while the waves strokes movement bright. Oxygen so adventurous, trapped then released. Wood through the warm, swelling of pleasure, sounds of eaten lumber, hypnotized strength, of care to be taken as oranges engulf whole. Poke and movement left roars, sparks jumping with joy, contact made to the eyes, cinders heating, the delicate kisses that send Eurydice under, as if those were the last to grace. Incredible heights the flames reached, heat in the voice, wrapping their cinders to the wood, weakened by pleasure, smoking the love between smiles of wax, shone the mixture in one fireplace for all time. The horn of a train demanded their cinders, hiding under the last few pieces undisturbed in the ash.
Okay, cool. Now I feel like we can welcome, right, a poet onto the stage. Give it up one more time for everybody who took a risk and came up here right now. Cool. So, as mentioned before, this is the Distinguished Visiting Writer Series reading. This is our first event of the year, and we are welcoming poet Darius Simpson. I invited Darius because I feel like every time I see Darius perform, I remember what I'm up to. I feel like a circle has been completed, and I don't doubt myself. I don't doubt people that look like me. I don't doubt my mom. I don't doubt my dad. I don't doubt my friends. And I don't doubt the power of people who have or do, become erased. I feel like poetry is a place where we can preserve the dignity, right, of ourselves, our communities, and even the dumb shit we do. Let's be real, right? And watching Darius perform in the spaces with the poets that we perform with keeps me connected, I think, to the thing that we need to be connected to in order to do the work that we want to do. So I want to go ahead and tell you a little about Darius, invite Darius up. We're going to hear some work. Feel free to ask questions, and also know that if you are interested at all in submitting to the Poetry Prize for Occam's Razor for CSU East Bay Campus, this will be your judge. So he's not scary, he's a real person. Okay? But keep that in mind as well. So Darius Simpson is a writer, educator, performer, and skilled living room dancer from Akron, Ohio. He received an MFA in creative writing poetry from Mills College. Darius was a recipient of the 2020 Ruth Lilly and Dorothy Sargent Fellowship, a 2023 National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship, and is the author of Never Catch Me, published by Button Poetry in 2022. Darius's poems have appeared in Poetry Magazine, the Adroit Journal, American Poetry Review, Tinderbox Poetry Journal, and others. Darius believes in the dissolution of empire and the total liberation of all oppressed people by any means available. Free the people, free the land, free all political prisoners. Give it up for Darius Simpson, y'all. Mikey.
Yo, this is the world's fanciest mic. I'm so excited to use it. For sure. Hey, y'all. Hi. Let me know, Glenn, if my necklaces do a thing. We talked earlier about the necklaces and the mic. Poets are so funny. I was talking with a friend like 2 years ago. We were saying that poets will say the sweetest shit about you only right before they introduce you. Like those things you just heard, Sarah has never said those things to me. And they were beautiful and wonderful. And it's always like really interesting to see like you have your heart opened up and then you got to read the little bio you wrote and it's not as great as that. So thank you for that. Can y'all raise a hand if you ever been to a poetry performance? Like you ever saw someone perform poems in front of you? Wow, y'all are already experts. Because you're experts, I'm going to judge you a little harshly. Y'all have not been great to the people that have come up here. But it's fine because we're going to practice and grow together. This is a community. This is a back and forth and conversation. And so I'm going to say some words. I'm going to read from a book. But before that, I wanted to just normalize some interactions in here. And so as I'm up here saying things, if you fuck with something, if something, I don't know, sends a chill down your spine, if it resonates with you, a couple of things you can do. You can snap. Can we practice our snapping fingers? Very, very expert already. You could say, wow. You say, wow. Wow. If you cuss, you could say, damn. You could say, oh my God. Okay, so some of y'all, I'm not going that high. It's fine, it's fine. If you have a deeper voice, you can also say, oh my God. You can do that. It's fine. It's all right. What else can you do? Like if you had the first bite of your most favorite, most delicious meal, what's the sound you would make? You could do that. And if you're really expert, you could do like and snap at the same time. Can we try that? You say for sure. And so, yeah, all of that. You can yell things back to and up at me. That's part of this experience, part of what I appreciate about performances. I came to poetry through spoken word and through like open mics on campus especially, and it was that like when I came into the audience I felt like I was a part of what was happening on stage, and so I'm going to bring that into this space too as well. Cool? For sure. We're getting there. We're warming up. It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to read some poems from a book that I wrote. It's called Never Catch Me. Yeah, gold star for you. I didn't tell you get a gold star. The first gets a gold star, and now it's given out. Words. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Last Call. I say I need to drink less. And tonight is the third night in a row that my left hand is a short glass of whiskey. Does that make me a liar or an escape artist? And does it really make a difference on a San Francisco Sunday where the shoreline is coughing up hazmat suits? A haze of unclearing throats meandering toward a blue, pink, gold Pacific backdrop. N95 means more to civilians now than it should. Election season means we may not make it to the ballot, and perhaps this disaster was man-made. Perhaps if we had emptied more magazines in the right direction, there would be less obituaries on the east side this morning. My therapist who is neither licensed nor a therapist, speaks fluent empty shot glass, exchanges horror stories from the work week across a wooden countertop confessional. He asks, "What you running from?" I say, "You right. Pour another one and watch me never run anywhere again. Either it goes down gasoline or ice water. Our session ends with my legs stuttering onto a dance floor, part wobble but mostly floating toward the sweet spot in the crowd, where bent knees begat spiraling backs, where sweat is offered up in praise to the DJ's intuition. Hooked elbow swung around the neck of my new best friend, who was a stranger 30 seconds ago. Until that one song, when the entire venue faded to background noise while we, gods of salted skin, uncles who inherited the groove from our grandfathers, backyard two-step practitioners, challenged by, "What you know about this?" and trained to kill that shit. We fastened our eyes on the precision of each other's pop lock. We mirrored Lean with Rock and Harlem Shake with Dougie. One of us cast an A spell, while the other spun the floor into red carpet, twisted the air into a Thanksgiving kitchen humid. Liquor has a funny way of ironing the wrinkles out of introductions. So 3 or 4 hours, or shots, or bathroom breaks in, there we were, bouncing limbs in the middle of no one's living room. For a split second, thought we might have been immortal if we just drank enough midnight. But we know what moonlight does to black functions when the music stops. What uniformed wolves linger beyond the overwhelming exchange between bass drum and eardrum. How quickly the end of a song can bleed into a more lasting quiet. Happy endings are for white women. Glass slippers were invented by white men. Glass slippers make for a messy dance floor. Make it hard to run from sirens. That's the end of that poem. Cool. I'm gonna read like 2 more from the book. If you have like reflections, questions, comments, compliments, in between, feel free to like throw a hand up or just shout them out. Want this to be a little more conversational. After I'm done with those 2, I'm gonna perform some poems, and then we'll do like a more official Q&A discussion type thing. But cool. Any thoughts or reflections on that poem? Oh, cool. All right. It was cool. You're like, all right, that was 1 poem, bro. We don't know you yet. Keep saying words. Word. Right on. Appreciate you. You can also do a thumbs down. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I haven't really hidden. You don't have to say nice things to me. Like, you can say whatever comes up naturally. The next one is it's called Shattered. Are there any youngest siblings in here? Gang in here? Yeah, shout out to us. We survived. They was preying on our downfall. But, so I'm the youngest of 3, and this is a poem. Poetry has been useful at a lot of different points in my life. Lately, in terms of my family relationships, it's been helpful in trying to like play with the pain, you know? Not just like, this happened and it sucks and it made me angry, but like, what else is possible? You know, what are the, you know? And I think for me, like, not an avoidance technique, but once I'm able to like dance with a thing, it's, it doesn't impact or affect me as much, if that makes sense, right? And so I'm not just dealing with and being impacted by it. Now I'm like taking more of a part in the process. And so this is me trying to figure out why me and my older brother aren't cool. And that's the poem. It's called Shattered. I texted my brother 2 days ago to see if he was alive, and our grandmother responded instead. Good news, he's not dead. Apparently I am. Or every morning, I break into his apartment while he's still asleep and pour hot bacon grease on his forehead. Or I am the reason it rains and the reason he never has an umbrella. Or I invented paper cuts and he works in a paper folding factory where they can't wear gloves or take breaks. Or I paid a wizard to put a spell on his heart, and now every time he falls in love with someone, they fall in love with me instead. And we get married and invite everyone on the planet to the wedding except for him. And 9 months later, we bring a child into this world that shares his nearly black-brown eyes, and we name it after his least favorite food. I want to be more specific. I want to be more specific there, but he eats food is the most I can tell you about his diet. My brother is a fighter. With me, it's not swinging hands or playful headlocks. It's mouth slanted sideways like a barrel spilling acid into an unsuspecting river. It's landmine conversations. One word out of place, then it's the deadened glaze over his eyes like he's staring through a ghost or into a mirror with a haunting resemblance to his childhood. The first time he told me he'd shatter me was during a shoving match with our sister. He didn't actually say shatter, but a fist to the side of the head is worth 1,000 hammers. The second time, I promised a hug after not seeing him for a year. He promised it would end with a brick. The third time he told me he'd shatter me, I melted into a puddle of molten glass before he could elaborate. There are still ashes in my grandmother's couch from the last time I told him I love you. That's that one. Any, it's also fun. Any oldest siblings in the building? Right on. Some of y'all raise your hand for both. Somebody lying. I don't know about that. Ah, right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. No disrespect to the middle children. If you're an oldest or older sibling, or older if you're a middle child, love on your little siblings. Cool. I'm gonna do one more. Oh, comments, thoughts, questions for the next one? Yeah.
How much is the age difference between you and your brother?
4. So there's 3 of us. My older sister is 2 years, and then he's 2 years older than her. So 4 between us.
My siblings. I'm 4 years between my older brother, and then 4 years between him and my oldest brother.
Oh shit.
So fuck over siblings.
Oh no, wait. I mean, yes, kind of sometimes, but also, they have complicated lives.
Yeah, I don't even know how.
Yeah, what's up?
I have this fear because I write about my family a lot. Are you ever worried that your family are gonna read your poems?
For sure. I was before. My brother, we're at a point where he probably doesn't even know I have a book out. But so not with that, but with my dad. My mom not either, because I will send her a poem if it's about her first, just so she knows. But earlier on, when I was writing anti-family poems, and I was in high school, early college. Why don't y'all's drop? Y'all haven't gotten to anti-family poems yet? You'll get there. Stay with it. Stay at it. Yeah. But when that was happening, I was being a little less nuanced in how I was talking about how I felt about things. I was I hope they don't see it, but also I'm confrontational. So I'm my first performance was at a club in my hometown. And my dad came, and all I had was anti-dad poems at the time. Because that's all I was writing about. I was really upset about the things he was doing. And I was fuck you. Line after line. And so I think I've had a different relationship than other folks. So it's not really that I'm hiding away, but I do wonder how they'll respond to the things that I'm saying, for sure. Cool.
How did you get to such a point of nuance? What was that journey like?
Ooh, a lot of tears. A lot of that. There was I think it really took a lot of time to accept. I think the thing that happened over time, the tears, the poems, the venting to people, was accepting that people are who they are. These are, whole humans. And that's not in the way of oh, you are who you are, I'm gonna leave you alone because you don't give me what I need. But you have a host of shit going on that I'm not aware of. And there's the poem that I wrote about my brother. It was there's a bunch of possibilities of why, what I would call he doesn't fuck with me, just to put it simply. And normalizing that, I may never know the answer, and it has to be okay. You know what I mean? Or I can start the practice of articulating where you have me fucked up, and if we have that kind of relationship, we can talk about it. And so it's been a bit of both. With my mother, there's been some. We've been able to confront some of the things that have come up, but for different family members, it changes. The nuance comes maybe a little later, or maybe never at all. But it's been a process of writing out what I'm thinking and feeling, a lot of tears, and some venting. Did you have a hand up? No? Okay, cool. For sure. Last book poem, then I'm going to say some words. Y'all remember 2020 when a bunch of y'all already laughing. You don't even know what to say. It's crazy. Well, there was a lot of, yeah, you're right. That was great. You're already laughing. You're prepared. Anti-racist statements were getting released. And we got Starbucks was sending out show up for the movement messages, $5 off coupons and shit. I work for a nonprofit, and I have since I moved to California. And nonprofits are a special kind of wonderful, because there's this social justice language, but it's still just capitalism. It's still just exploitation. Except now, you give them a little more grace because your boss, I don't know, puts you on to a dope collective in the city type shit, And so this is responding to those statements for Black Lives that came out in 2020. Nonprofit equity statement. walks into a summer 2020 writing workshop. Your Black Lives Matter laptop sticker is not doing the work you think it is. I want to talk about the inclusion committee. I want to talk about your staff and board. I want to talk about the students you do not serve. I want to talk about what you did not do before shell casings ricocheted unarmed flesh, before buildings like yours became cheap lumber, before downtown populated into campfire chants, before marshmallows like you started looking like midnight snacks, before 1,000 pitchforks gathered in skyscraper alleys, before Monday night looked like a decent occasion for pig funerals, before election ads revealed politicians only show teeth at mealtime. I want to talk about your aversion to the word black. I want to talk about the seats at your dinner table. I want to know if you would die for a black person. I want to know if you would vacate your house for a black family. I want to know what you look like 12 months away from luxury. I do not mean a year-long artist residency. I do not mean your missionary work of gentrifying unceded territory. I mean you having to plan a funeral no one in your family can afford. I do not want you to understand how we feel. I do not care if you understand. I want you to feel it. I want to turn your organs inside out. I want to really reverse racism your skin. I want you strung up naked on a flagpole, call it a pledge of allegiance, how you stripe red, how you bleed for a population that betrayed you. And I don't want you to die. I want you to flap there in the wind until you muster the strength to pull yourself down, wiggling to half-mast by your bootstraps, till your mother arrives to find what's left of you with a lynch mob's worth of questions and no answers and no suspects, even though the entire town knows who did it. I want you hobbling back to the sunny side of a high-rise. I want your heavy breathing to bruise your ribs on the drive to work. I want you to retell the story of how your cracked shell broke running. I want you to struggle to talk about it. I want you to perish a little inside whenever you pass a cop. I want you to faint at the sight of the American flag. I want you to throw up when you hear the national anthem. I want you to wince at the thought of a traffic stop. I want you to study John Brown as a blueprint. I want you to study Marilyn Buck and see a future for yourself. I want you to take responsibility for the unclaimed skulls in the ocean. I want you to take a hard look at your grandmother's checkbook. I want you to literally fist fight your grandparents. I want you to end all of this right now. Word. Cool. Thoughts, reflections, comments before more poems? Bet. Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, or anybody else on the spot, but also whatever. What does it feel like when you read poems like that and we clap? You know, like what are like the different reactions or responses like to your work that you feel like, maybe not specifically in this space, but just in an institutional space, a white space? What are your experiences with that?
Yeah, to be honest, I spend less time in white spaces now, or like institute. It's more like, doing events for the homies, and it tends to be, in Oakland and San Francisco. But how did it feel now? How does it feel reading those kind of poems? Before, I was writing, this is not like a brag or nothing like that, but if you Google me, no, I'm just kidding. There's a poem called Genocide, where it's just detailing, similar to what I was talking about earlier, in terms of just like writing down the pain and reporting on it. I did a similar thing in terms of like what it meant to be black to me. And I think when I was writing these black pain poems and then standing before people and doing black pain poems, it felt a little strange and weird, but also kind of gratifying. And I got into a negative relationship with that to do that. Now that the poem is like taking the violence and turning it on its head, I'm not really too concerned about, how the thing lands in the moment, especially. I think, yeah, that's my raw answer. Yeah.
Do you consider what you do journalism then?
Huh. That's an interesting question. I don't know enough about journalism to say I consider it journalism, but I think what I can see is a relationship between the two is a kind of reporting. I think what they share is a kind of reporting and also a responsibility to the audience, a responsibility to the community. I think just like a poet, just like a fiction writer, journalists have a responsibility to their community, to the stories that they're telling. When I say community, I mean like materially the people outside, not just some imagined sense of what it means to be connected. And so we have to consider the impact of the stories that we're telling and which narrative it's reinforcing, which power structure it's reinforcing. Either we're reinforcing the oppressor, or we are reinforcing and empowering the folks that are being oppressed and exploited. I think those are considerations that both have to make. Are you a journalist? Oh, okay. Okay, I was gonna say, do you think that there's, okay, cool, word. Cool, I'm gonna go into a litany of final poems. Try to start things like this with 2 objective facts. The first objective fact is that banana is a terrible artificial flavor. Again, you get another gold star. You're doing great today. You're doing so amazing. So proud of you. The second objective fact, is it's okay to shoot back at cops. The black artist's role in America is to aid in the destruction of America as he knows it. Amiri Baraka. I live just east of a contradiction. Clumps of knotted human hair skip excitedly over sidewalk cracks and pairs. Screeching tires scrape murals into over-patrolled crosswalk paint. City trimmers and zip codes shaken loose from indigenous childhoods. Colonialism don't respect finders keepers. All's fair in genocide except self-defense. There are humans too familiar with the politics of thunderstorm forecasts. Squalor sitting right next door to neighborhood-sized apartment buildings. Half-empty baby bottles rolling over broken glass under the freeway. There's dead grass, grappling with the distance between beating hearts. Piles of repurposed couch cushions and bench warrants covered in sewage. Climate crisis is disgusted by how many civilians we let pile on the curb. While profits skyrocket for empty housing units. While a high-rise falls out the chapped lips of an investor, I'm not really sure how leasing works. I got my degree in human decency. I'm not really up on the latest ethics for ownership. All my comrades keep space on the couch and a spare blanket. We push the weight limits of a Honda Civic, and there is always room. Wednesday is a good excuse to shoplift under capitalism. Yesterday was sufficient evidence to stack bricks outside the courthouse. 1970s criminal records are waiting for academics and artists to put on work boots. I'm not sure what's legal and what's tradition anymore, but at some point, y'all, I'm sick of this shit, has got to lead us to get rid of city council, lest we be made of plastic promises too, lest the young have a bone to pick, lest that bone come from our inactive skeletons, lest there be no lands left to pick a fight on. I blame the suffering last for how we survived the winter. I blame the governor for flooded highways and raining ash. I blame poverty on vegan diet commercials and yoga studios. I blame police for lead pipes and poisoned middle school history lessons. I blame police for all the mornings my father bit his tongue on the job. I blame police for my lazy eye twitch and my obsessive desire to produce. I blamed the sheriff's office last week when I stubbed my toe. It left this iron star-shaped blood stain in my sock. Y'all know who Kwame Ture is? No? Y'all ever heard of Stokely Carmichael? Like, you may raise your hand if you've heard of Stokely Carmichael. Let's show. Kwame Ture is who Stokely Carmichael became. He changed his name later in his life, doing some organizing work on the continent of Africa, working with African anti-colonial movements. Kwame Ture has a lot of speeches. You should look him up. He does a lot of talking specifically, speeches specific to college students and what it means to be responsible to a broader community outside. One of the things that he talked about was the difference between mobilization and organization, and saying that things like rallies, protests are necessary, and that, just like pigs don't stop, their violence is consistent. Houselessness doesn't stop. That violence is consistent. Whatever expression of facilitated oppression that we're talking about, it doesn't stop. And so, too, our response to that thing, our attempts to solve that thing has to be nonstop. And the way we do that is to go from attending rallies, attending protests, toward day-to-day organizing, building up organizations, engaging in protracted struggle, so that we're not just reacting and expending all our energy, our resources, trying to get people out of jail. Does that make sense? Cool. And so this is a response to that speech by Kwame Ture. Okay, so maybe the rally won't get us free. I've drummed at more protests than celebrations. By protest, I mean we had a target and goals. Without permits, we marched to the rhythm of tears beating the pavement's skin. What's clear is we've been here before and will again. What's clear is there will be war until we win the war. If there is no war, then maybe the U.S. will sandcastle crumble. If there is no U.S., maybe Africa can sleep with both eyes closed. Maybe Cuba will get a decent shot at a Sunday afternoon. Maybe Palestine will look back on occupation as a faint memory. Maybe our movements coming to a standstill won't be surrender. Maybe the rally won't get us free on this here Tuesday. But listen, for a few hours, my lungs heave with a force besides grief, and thousands of pissed off cardboard posters bounce beside me. And yes, we have to organize outside of mobilizations, but damn it, they're killing children over there and over here and last night and the week before last and since the first settlers colonized. And don't that mean we got to burn something? And don't that mean we don't stop till sunrise blossoms and burnt orange haze spills across skyline bridges? And ain't that physics or human nature or the least we could do for our babies? There is entirely too much ash in this oxygen. There are simultaneously not enough fires on the West Coast. This evening, I say coast and think of river borders and sea blockades, of dense populations and open air prisons, of gas mask kufiya and bandana bandages, of rocks denting literal cannons. My comrades remind me there are fires to start. And I realize my hands are not nearly dirty enough. Time for like 2 more poems? What you think? Okay. Cool. Other thoughts? Yeah.
How do you feel about banana-flavored Laffy Taffy?
I refer to you the earlier statement that banana is a terrible artificial flavor, no matter what package you put in it. And so it's disgusting, just like all banana-flavored things. Objectively. Are you a banana Laffy Taffy fan?
I don't know about the other flavors because I don't eat those.
Got you. Word. So you can
Candies, I mean.
you can stand like halfway solidarity with us because you.
I don't like the texture of bananas, but I don't mind banana-flavored things.
Huh. You get whatever the opposite of a gold star is. An ungold star.
You failed the class, actually.
I can save this question for later if you want.
Yeah.
But do you find it's easier over time or harder over time to like remember poetry off the back of your head and not have it in your hands?
I find this the same over time. When I was performing more regularly, again, when I was in undergrad, we had like a monthly open mic, and the challenge was always to come with new work. And there was just a lot more shows then. I think that I was just performing more, and so like poems were just like there, but I also have a different relationship to like performing now, where everything isn't as scripted as it was when I came into poems, at least. And so I think it's pretty much the same, but my relationship to it has changed. It's definitely a little more intimidating now. Because before it was like I was super heavy on choreo, and so it was like at this part I'm gonna do this, and then at that part I'm gonna do, And so like everything was kind of like that, and it was easier to remember because it was just like boom, 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 boom. And this is a little more vulnerable because I'm like kind of relying on the energy in the room. Not to say the audience, but just like what I have available to myself, and like letting the poem carry and like dancing with the poem instead of saying like, this is how we're gonna do this. You're gonna go high here, low there, But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it mostly does.
For sure. Not 75%.
Just because like I have like a terrible early on memory, so like I can remember what I wrote, but as far as recalling it to speak, it's like it gets lost.
For sure. Some things I do to practice, which isn't to say you don't already do these things, but I record myself and then play it back and then listen, like it's intense. Listen like 10 times and say it with it and then cut it off and practice 10 times without it. Looking at your poem and standing up and practicing it too is helpful. That's only something that got put on to in like the last couple of years. Audio, it's like running that shit consistently. Really, I don't know how much you run the poems you're trying to remember, but I find that that's helpful. And then it's a muscle, right? So like once you like get into the practice of memorizing poems, when you have a new poem to memorize, it's not like you're starting from scratch. You have kind of a system to move into, you know? Cool. Yeah.
How much does your original poem change from the finished product?
It depends. Depends on the poem. Sometimes I write a thing and it's like, oh yeah, this is the thing. It's doing exactly what I needed to. Sometimes it doesn't even survive. Like no part of the poem makes it to the last stage. So it just depends on where it starts and where I'm trying to actually get to based on where I started. You know, sometimes you'll write something out and you'll be like, I'm actually not trying to, this isn't getting at what I'm trying to do. And you gotta completely scrap it, start over. Cool, I'm gonna do 2 more. And then, oh yeah.
Do you think that capitalist-based activism still holds a place?
Capitalist-based activism? What do you mean by that?
Like rainbow capitalism, and like you said, like Starbucks putting up BLM signs and things like that. Do you think we got to get rid of that altogether, or is there a time and a place for that?
I think, not to move your question away, but I think that I think maybe a more helpful question, or a different question to ask around that is, what is the function of the thing? What is it doing? Not, does this have its place too, and it can be positive? Anything can really be positive or negative, right? Like, and have its space where it's doing something that is okay. But what is the overall general function of a corporation that is exploiting globally, you know, people, locally to the workers at Starbucks, saying that we're here for the people? What is actually happening there is a question we can ask. And we would say, like, this is actually just them trying to put on a face, trying to actually get more money, trying to bring people, you know, because now as a person who maybe identifies with whatever politic, whatever thing is being shown, I'm like, oh, they're for the people too. Let me go, you know, throw my money at them. When they haven't changed anything fundamentally about what they're doing. You know what I mean? And so like when they put those things out, did they change the pay for their workers? You know, did they change how they responded to Starbucks locations unionizing? You know, what was actually happening there? And so it has its place. It's the place of the opposition. And I think that's where clarifying who your people are, what your own political beliefs are. Because Starbucks and capitalism, they, you know, the CEO of Starbucks, they have their politic. Exploit by any means necessary. And, you know, death be damned, you know, natural world be damned. You know what I mean? Sovereignty of countries be damned. We're going to keep exploiting. And so, too, on our side, we have to have what are we moving for? What are we going for? And organizing around that. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah, last one.
Yeah, so kind of related to that, when you're writing a poem, do you ever visualize it differently than how you end up performing it?
Yeah, y'all asking the questions that are like taking me back through poetry. Because before, it was when I was writing, I came into poetry through performance. And so I was always thinking about how is this going to sound? What is it going to look like? How am I going to do my body when I'm doing this part? Just so that when I got to memorizing it, I had less work to do. And so then it was a lot of that. Now it's really kind of up in the air. And like when I perform a poem for the first time, I'm really just like standing and saying it because I don't know the poem yet, you know? I memorized it, but I don't, you know, what does the poem want to do? What does it feel like, you know, in the moment? So now I'm less concerned with like what exactly I'm going to do. I get to the stage. But it does have its own like kind of rhythm and sound too. Like kind of naturally carries. But cool. 2 more poems. I love the moderation in the background. All right, that's enough. We're going to go back to poems now. Appreciate you. In response to a police-involved shooting, a very well-meaning person said, you know he shot at the police, right? You know he might not have had his hands up. You know he did not mentor at-risk teenagers after school. You know he was not up to date on his YMCA membership. You know his license was suspended and his tail lights shattered. You know he wasn't wearing a lick of white when they found him, had his pants sagging, had his shirt untucked, had his lips unbuckled, dripping southern twang all on the concrete. It sounded like a mouthful of honeybees was stuck at the top of his throat. You know he was black. Like black, like dark roast coffee beans, black like ashy knuckles, cradling a bottle of wild Irish rose on the sidewalk, black like scarecrow, perched just outside that liquor store doorway, black like purple tar gums and gold teeth, like paper bag hands and menthol breath, like empty Black and Mild wrappers stuffed in the glove compartment. I heard it wasn't even blood where they left him. I heard it was just stains of red Kool-Aid. I heard it was just puddles of strawberry pop fizz. You know, sugar would have got him if 12 didn't. You know his teeth were little yellowing daggers. You know he was a dragon, returned fire, went out in a puff of smoke. You know he was a weapon, didn't beg for his life or call for his mother or his partner. You know that nigga went out on his feet, brought a gun to a gunfight, brought mutiny to a slave ship at the Atlantic shoreline. You know that nigga was a nigga. And not like, ha ha, nigga. Not like next Democratic presidential nominee, nigga. Not like run fast, jump high, nigga. Like worm food covered in tree bark. Like lead water clogging an artery. Like dead leaves stuck in a gutter. Like storm the arsenal and shoot the masters. He was one of those give me liberty or give me blood types. That nigga had the nerve to want freedom and then go do something about it. And still, what y'all gonna march for him? What would Malcolm X's old zoot suit think? What would a white woman's rendition of Dr. King think? What would the noose say? What if they see us mourning and think we just as dangerous as him? What if I say liberation and they think I mean I hate America? What if I hate America but don't know no other homeland? Shit, what if America hates me back and does something about it but doesn't leave me time to shoot first? Thank you. For sure. I feel like we're done with poems. Feels like the energy of the room. So I appreciate y'all. Y'all want to talk about some stuff now? If you have any like conversational questions, any questions about poetry, publishing, performing, or you want me to rant about why capitalism is evil and we need to organize for a revolution? You know, any of those subjects. Let's get into it. What's up?
I have two questions. One is a craft. How do you equalize both the narrative and such provocative imagery together? Because you weave those in like amazingly. How do you push that through?
Word. Shit, editing. I would like to say it's just kind of like I just kind of do it, you know, kind of feel the vibes, comes out like that. Now I don't know where y'all are in your writing journeys, but when I started off, I felt an aversion to editing because it was like this is the word from God, and now it's a page. I am a vessel type shit. And I think there is a spiritual nature to the thing, right? Very much so. And editing is important. And so like as I'm going back and through, sometimes there's a poem that is like really heavily image based, which I think is what you're talking about. And so I'm like referencing these different points and not saying what I think about a thing or telling a story. And then, you know, sometimes it rocks like that. Sometimes that's the entire poem. If I'm, you know, trying to do a particular thing in the poem, or like there is thinking of a poem like a house, some folks say, you know, like a structure. There are different structures, but a very basic foundation to the thing. And so sometimes the poem is carried by subject matter. You know, sometimes the poem is carried by whether you're talking about narrative or imagery that is heavy. Sometimes it's not, and those are just like the shutters on the outside. And so it really just depends. What is this thing that I'm constructing, and what does it need? You know, and what happens when I take out a thing and add this thing? Does it become an entirely new structure that can stand on its own too? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Poets responding can be kind of vague sometimes.
No, that makes complete sense. Yeah. My second question: how did you get your foot in the door, like into the world of like publishing your work? You know what I mean? Like, what was like, your one thing that brought you into it?
My terrible person to ask because I have like a negative relationship to the publishing world. Because I came through like spoken word, and that shit is so much more exciting to me. Like random open mics at the around the corner. That shit is where. Okay, there's lots to say because like we talk about publishing and talk about poetry as like what people do, and immediately we think about the institution, the written word, the book. And folks at the open mic get discounted, when there's as much, if not, I'm not gonna say more, there is as much, craft and practice that is going into what's happening, that's happening in this art form as what happens on the page. But to answer the question, I came through it through, I did my MFA. I had been like performing in college and, had a performance poetry background. And I was like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing in this regard, but I don't know much about what it means to write poems on the page. And so I went to look for it there. And then that's how I got it exposed to Submittable, which was it's like a hub for literary mags and journals where you push your poems out to the world that way. Yeah, how did I get my foot in the door? Did I answer your question? Okay. Yeah. For sure. I'm gonna go like shoo-doo-doo. So boom, boom, and then there. Okay.
So decolonizing is just like inherently like a painful journey. And when you let decolonization influence or lead your writing, do you find that the writing process then becomes painful?
Good ass question. I think it varies in defining what decolonization is and what it isn't. I wouldn't say that decolonization necessarily guides my writing. I'm guided by revolution, a revolutionary struggle. I think that's important to name because, as we've seen, decolonization is very easily co-opted, right? Just the phrase, we move away from Aimé Césaire, we move away from Frantz Fanon, and now we're just saying a word and doing good work and calling it decolonizing. But to get at your question, these things guiding my work, because this shit is painful, Not saying the thing, not writing the poem, to me that is more painful when I'm, riding through Oakland and seeing houseless folks, being subject to the worst conditions, thinking about the floods that happen out here, the record heats, the smoke in the air, that type of shit. I think that is painful. And so to write the poem, just to say to be engaged before the poem in some kind of process that is addressing that, for me that looks like organizing with an organization called People's Programs. Like that allows for this to just be a reflection and a reporting on the thing. It's like a part of my natural being, And so the writing the poem isn't the hard part. To not write it would be really painful to me. Yeah. You got a question?
I always ask every artist I meet this question. Do you keep your early drafts, your shitty drafts, and your other stuff that's like, nah, I don't want to work on this? And how often do you look back on it to either grow from or take inspiration from?
I am not the most organized person.
Same here.
And so, I do most of my writing in a Notes app and then Google Docs. So no, I don't tend to keep the things that don't become drafts. If I think that I want to do more with it, I put it into my Notes app. And everything in the Notes app doesn't become a poem into the Google Doc, or a draft first in the Notes app and then moved over to the Google Doc. But now I'm not intentionally keeping them so that I can look back on them. It's like, I'm writing this down because I want to, possibly use it. If it's not entirely useful at this moment, maybe I'll come back to it. But I don't spend much time on. There's so much to write. I'm so focused on the front. You kind of you had me questioning my process, and I'm like, damn, I need to start not thinking about producing the thing, but. Yeah, no, I don't really keep them. You got a question?
I was just wondering, how do you approach the balance of form and content in your poetry?
Sure. I'm a rebel, as y'all can see. You ask me a question, and I keep pushing back on your question. And so when it comes to form, I don't have the best relationship to form. I've had to familiarize myself so that it wasn't just random rebellion or unprecise, if I can make up words up here, rebellion. So being able to learn the form and then to break the rules of it, And so now in forming content, I do still sometimes focus very heavily on what am I trying to say, But again, coming back to before, through the editing process, I get to refine and say like, you know, what form can this or does this fit into? And not even fitting it into it, but like, what does this this form do to this poem? Like, who does it become? What does it become if it takes on this form? If there's spaces between each line, if there's couplets, you know, if this is into like a more official form, you know, type shit. So the balance comes through editing. But I am like an anti-formal kind of person just naturally, because I'm like, no, I cannot be contained. Type shit, you know? Like I rebel about the most random shit, and I have to catch myself sometimes. But yeah, it's a fun little dance. So, let's go here, then here. Sorry to point at y'all, so I don't know your names.
Have you done a collaborative poem, or who would you collab with?
Those are great questions. We call those group pieces. When I like Slam and how I was coming up, done a lot of group pieces. They're on YouTube. Some of them are on YouTube if you ever want to look them up. Who would I collab with if I had the chance? Like, Alive or Dead?
Yes.
Amiri Baraka, easily. I don't think I've ever seen Amiri Baraka do a group piece, but that's, let me tell you. Y'all know who Amiri Baraka is?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Wait, was he the one we talked about, like, whenever...
Black Lives Movement.
Well, yeah, but didn't he later go on to say, like, weren't some of his later poems, like, anti-Semitic and homophobic?
Yeah, we all become a little problematic.
And there's much to say about the
There's
anti-Semitism
a lot to say,
for Amiri Baraka, right? We come back to the question of like, what purpose does a thing serve? Like, what is the structure that is calling Amiri Baraka anti-Semitic, and what lines specifically are being talked about? Because for sure, he has some problematic things, and the reason that he had his poet laureate shit stolen from him was not anti-Semitism. It was because he wrote a poem against the United States, and that shit was effective and very clear, and he named his enemies inside of it. It's called Somebody Blew Up America. But, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we out of time? We
okay.
have 3 minutes.
Okay.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Oh, you go first. I can ask here.
So, just considering this last poet, how do you feel about the concept of death of the author?
Death of the author?
Yeah.
How do you mean? What's the concept?
Death of the author in the sense that you can enjoy an artist, but not the art performed, but not the artist themselves. Like when people are a fan of Michael Jackson, but we don't talk about what he did because they were kids. So how do you feel about that? Do you think, especially in poetry specifically, do you think we should acknowledge the poet and their position, or should we only look at their art and what they're trying to express?
For sure. I think that we can't separate the two. And again, to look at the function of the thing, right now, a lot of us engage mostly in the world through online, and it's made us a lot more receptive to disposability, a lot more receptive to, fuck this person, and like engaging with people in the real world. And practice sometimes feels like it's as easy as an unfollow button, and that's just not reality, especially when we consider that there is like internal struggles, right? There are disagreements that we may have. We got a problematic auntie. We're dealing with like colonized minds, right? People did not learn this oppression because they're naturally evil. Whether we're talking about anti-Semitism, homophobia, whatever it is, anti-blackness, all that shit, it was taught, right? And so we have to consider the context that we're inside of when we're dealing with people. Just to say that shit gets excused and like, terrible acts get excused, but like thinking about that and how we deal. But yeah, we can't separate the two, and we can't necessarily just say, fuck this person, everything they've ever done because they said this one thing once upon a time or this particular action. Again, not talking about Michael Jackson, because that's a whole other question. I'm not saying of any particular act. I'm just saying in general how we engage with the question of someone's art versus what they've said and what they've done. Has to be a little more complicated than what we're doing right now.
If I can ask a follow-up.
Yeah.
Do you think the disengagement kind of connects to what you were talking about with empty allyship during your Lost Voices poem?
Huh? Look at you doing homework. That's a heavy question. I think there's... Yes, I'll just say yes. I'll say yes. I'm gonna let it rock and say yeah. Of course. And then I think last question.
Oh yeah, I wondered how can we get more poets and politicians at the same table, at the same dinner table? Where policy can shift thanks to artwork, and I understand like how culture shifts policy and affects policy, but you know, I think a lot about just wishing there could be rooms full of people with more crossover and more voices that connect culture creators to like people who know how to affect policy so directly.
For sure. I would say to that a couple of things. The first, that we have to get more serious about what, you know, all of us need to get more serious, the politicians and the people in this room. I think we can all say that we believe something about the world, but aren't necessarily doing anything about that particular belief. And that's a first step that has to change. Before we talk about getting to the table with politicians, we have to also have an analysis of what they're doing now and, you know, who they're serving. You know, when they come into the room, they're not coming because they were elected and they are responsible to people. If you sit down with a politician, 9 times out of 10, it's because you and your people was outside making some noise and they want to quiet that shit up. Yeah. And so right now, who's puppeting the politicians? Whose interests are the politicians acting in service of? And can they even come into a room and talk to us, especially if we're not organized ourselves? Yeah. Which comes to the second thing. After we get more serious, we have to have an organized body, you know, away from politicians that is not waiting for them to come and adjudicate for us, to come in policy for us, but that is a block, is a neighborhood, is an organization saying, these are the things that we want, or, you know, or else. The other side is that we don't need policy necessarily, you know? You know, we can be feeding each other right now. You know, we can be housing each other right now. There's a whole history and tradition of anti-colonial, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, and revolutionary movements of people doing for self. And I think that's the other attitude that has to shift around us and how we think about our condition. Like getting serious about, this is what I'm standing on, and also we don't have to wait for these folks who are by nature of their job taken away from the community, which is a big part of this. So when they come to the table, you know, they're coming back to visit this neighborhood. You know, they're not actually attached to or tied to whatever happens here. So it doesn't matter, like, you know, for the most part, what these politicians do or say. Because again, what interests are they serving, and what are they signing up to do when they take that kind of job?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask one more thing and then I'll shut up for sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to shut up. No. Yes, the question.
Yeah, shut up. Okay. But like something I know you think about is like Tongo when he says like poets have to go down to the trenches and don't be sad if nobody wants to hear a poem down there, right? And since a lot of us are in spoken word and we're also like serious as artists and seeing what that looks like, how do you feel your work, what do you feel your work is in people's programs, like in that type of work, and what do you feel your work is as a poet in regards to like power? Like how do you empower as an artist, and then how do you empower materially, like through work and through community?
For sure. Wow. Y'all have such great questions today, all y'all.
Or what do you think about when you think about doing that? Just because like I think everybody in this room is kind of like wondering, but we kind of don't know where to turn, you know, because we're in obviously a college.
For sure.
So we're not necessarily out here like that, but we want to be.
For sure. Tap in with Hello Black podcast if you haven't. Abbas and Delancey, Abbas starting on campus organizing. There's a lot of good work that can be done here, especially considering the resources that we have available to us at universities. You get to practice some of the things that you might do outside of the university with arguably less consequences. And so I would say to start there in terms of like how I see my work. I'm guided by politics now that I have, you know, something that I'm trying to align myself with, like some ancestors and ideological beliefs. Before then, it was very much like I'm trying to do as much damage as possible in all levels. And so when I would go to a protest, how can we, you know, turn this up to be as effective as possible? Writing a poem, how can this, you know, destroy the state, you know, type shit. And like sometimes that's still the intention, but I see the two as related, and so the responsibility always is to be raising consciousness, to be showing the complicated beauty in an honest way that doesn't overemphasize, you know, some of the struggle, and providing the tools and understanding that there is a tomorrow, there is an alternative. So we talked about a lot about capitalism, Alternative to that being socialism. I consider myself a socialist. As I said earlier, trying to live a revolutionary lifestyle out here, which is to say we're trying to get from a capitalist reality into a socialist one, to a egalitarian space. If you want to hear more about those things, maybe stay after the event. We can talk about organizing and socialism and how you can tap in particular. But yeah, I see that. Oh, there's one more thing. So there's a South African poet, anti-apartheid poet named Dennis Brutus. You ever heard of him? Okay. In an interview, he said that I think that essentially, I'm going to summarize, that the poet doesn't have any responsibility, any particular responsibility, but that the person, the human, does, and that every poet, as a person, has a responsibility to be committed. What he said, and so I dig that. And now, like when I'm talking about or using art when I'm writing, it's always the same responsibility as when I'm organizing. The tool looks different in terms of building up an organization, in terms of doing the work at the food program, the community garden. Or the tool of the poem. It's the same work but different tools. This was a mini sword.
Beautiful. Give it up for Darius Simpson, y'all.